And so to conclude this series on the A to Z of godly relationships for singles, I want to remind you that singleness is a season. It has no fixed time period. It's certainly not an illness that needs a cure. You're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. And no one but God our Father knows when you will move into your next season. But do ensure that the work the Father has set for you to do in your current season is done before he can move you on to the next season. As we mentioned in earlier segments, if you carry unforgiveness and hurt, he'll not bring you into the next season with it, because there's a whole other person involved in this. He doesn't want that person to be hurt also. He wants to heal you first. Trust, acceptance, and obedience, often in that order, is all God is looking for from you. You don't have to have it all together, not at all. But if you trust God, accept that you have stuff that needs working through, and then obey when God gives you the promptings and the tools to deal with that stuff, you then can progress. When your hurt prevents you from moving forward, you're trapped in bondage and possibly unforgiveness. Again, I've mentioned before that I had a season of unforgiveness where my dad rejected me at a very young age, and he told me directly, with words from his own mouth, he said to me, if anyone asks you who your dad is, tell them you haven't got one. And he dropped me off at home and left. And he left for 17 years. You can imagine, as a teenager, you can imagine what my relationships looked like. They certainly weren't positive. But I had a fear that if my own father could reject me that way and then leave me and disappear, that every and any man would do the same. And so I didn't allow myself to get involved. I didn't allow my heart to get involved in any relationship. I kept everybody at a safe distance. And if I had the slightest inkling, and I don't know if anyone can relate to this, but if I had the slightest inkling that I was with someone that was up to no good, I would end it instantly. Without question, without conversation, without discussion, it was over. Some would, they'd walk in the opposite direction and think, this is hard work, I don't need it. Others would plead with me and say, well, what's the problem? I don't care. I don't want to discuss it. I'm out. I didn't think for a second that I was actually carrying the amount of bitterness and hurt that I was carrying. When people told me that that was the case, I denied it. I said, you don't know what you're talking about. How can my dad, who I don't even know, affect me? He's not a part of my life. Why would it have any impact on who I am now? And in my ignorance, I truly believed that. But God, when I became a Christian and God showed me the hurt and the damage that I've been carrying for so many years, and he made it clear to me that I had to reconcile with my dad. I had to. I didn't understand why, but when I obeyed him, I resisted for a long time, a very long time. But once I obeyed him and I took the steps that I needed to take, and my dad didn't make it easy, not at all. But once I'd done it, God said to me very clearly, I now release you into your marriage. And I met my husband shortly afterwards. And I'm not saying that's going to be your story, but what I do know is that the longer I took to obey what God was telling me to do, the longer I delayed my blessing. I've mentioned in a few of the segments in this series that I've written 2 books, one being called +1=3, which is the story of my journey from before I became a Christian, my breakdown and my building up through Christ, and coming into my relationship with my now husband, and it tells a story up to present day. I also have a book called Rooted for Relationships, which is a teaching book for single people wanting to be prepared to go into relationships. Both are available on Amazon. If you would like to contact me, you can contact me at rootedforrelationships@gmail.com, and I can send you the link for those books also. And if you have any questions, please do post them so that we can get back to you with answers and share the answers with others if you don't mind. We won't use any names unless you are okay with us doing so. I'll also, as I mentioned before, be doing the A to Z for I got tongue-tied. The A to Z of godly relationships for dating couples and also for married couples. So look out for those. Thank you for listening. God bless you.